President Linda Grant stood in the Oval Office looking out the window at the Rose Garden. It was spring in Washington and the flowers were blooming. It seemed strange that life on Earth continued so normally while everything in the galaxy was changing. Behind her, Admiral Frank Hayes stood at attention, waiting patiently. He had returned from New Haven 2 weeks ago, and this was his first meeting with the President since the battle. "Tell me honestly, Frank," President Grant said without turning around. "Did you expect it to go that way?" "The battle, ma'am? Yes, the Kryn fight using intimidation and overwhelming force. But their technology is old. Refined, certainly, but based on principles that are centuries behind ours. Once I saw their ships, I knew we could take them. And the aftermath? The diplomatic situation?" Hayes hesitated. "That is more complicated, ma'am. We have been contacted by 17 different species in the past 2 weeks. All of them are asking for protection from the Kryn. Some are asking for military alliances. Others want to trade. A few are asking if they can join humanity as colonies." President Grant turned to face him. She was a small woman, barely 5 feet tall, but she carried herself with the authority of her office. 17 species. In 2 weeks. "Frank, we sent you out there to protect one colony. Now it seems we are becoming some kind of galactic peacekeeping force." "Yes, ma'am. That does seem to be the situation. I did not run for president to become the ruler of an interstellar empire. With respect, ma'am, we are not ruling anyone, but nature abhors a vacuum. The Kryn have been the dominant power in this region for thousands of years. Their dominance was based entirely on fear. We broke that fear. Now other species are looking for a new protector." President Grant moved to her desk and sat down heavily. "What are we supposed to do, Frank? We have 50,000 colonists spread across 4 worlds. Earth's population is 9 billion, but most of them have no interest in space. We do not have the resources to police the galaxy. We do not need to police the galaxy, ma'am. We just need to be strong enough that no one wants to test us. The Valiant and her sister ships give us that strength. The Kryn learned that lesson. Other aggressive species will learn it too, either by watching or by experiencing it themselves. And what about these species asking for protection? Do we just ignore them?" Hayes shook his head. "I do not think we should, ma'am. Many of these civilizations are peaceful. They have never developed significant military forces because they never needed to. The Kryn conquered them and forced them into submission. If we turn our backs on them now, the Kryn will return. Or worse, some other species will step in to fill the power vacuum. So what do you recommend? We establish a mutual defense pact. Any species that agrees to certain principles can sign it. We agree to defend them if they are attacked. In return, they agree not to engage in aggressive warfare themselves. They maintain their independence, their governments, their cultures, but they know that if someone threatens them, humanity will respond." President Grant considered this. "It sounds like we are building an alliance." "A coalition, yes, ma'am. That is exactly what I am suggesting. The United Nations will have opinions about this. The United Nations will debate it for months while people die," Hayes said bluntly. "Ma'am, I know this is not what you wanted. None of us wanted this. We went to the stars hoping to explore and learn. But we found a galaxy where the strong dominate the weak, where entire civilizations live in fear. We have the power to change that. I think we have the responsibility to change it." The president was quiet for a long moment. Finally, she nodded. "Draw up a formal proposal. Work with the State Department to create a framework for this alliance, but I want strict limitations. We defend, we do not conquer. We protect, we do not control. Can you live with those terms?" "Yes, ma'am. Those are exactly the terms I would recommend." "Good. Now tell me about the Kryn. Are they going to come back with a larger fleet?" Hayes smiled slightly. "I do not think so, ma'am. I reviewed the sensor recordings from their commander's ship. I think we put the fear of God into them, if you will pardon the expression. They will approach us diplomatically now. They are pragmatic enough to know when they are outmatched. I hope you are right, Frank, because if you are wrong, we just started the first interstellar war. If I am wrong, ma'am, then we were going to have that war anyway. Better to fight it now, when we have the advantage, than to wait until they have studied our technology and developed countermeasures." President Grant stood and extended her hand. "Thank you, Admiral. Get me that proposal as soon as possible. And Frank, tell your people they did well. History will remember what happened at New Haven." Hayes shook her hand and saluted. "Yes, ma'am." 3 months later, the Galactic Defense Initiative was officially announced. 12 species signed the initial agreement, pledging mutual defense and peaceful cooperation. The ceremony was held on a neutral space station, with representatives from each species present. Commander Vexthal was there as well, representing the Kryn Dominion. He stood at the back of the assembly hall, watching the proceedings with his multiple eyes. The Kryn had not signed the agreement. They had not been invited to sign it, but they had been invited to observe, a diplomatic gesture that acknowledged their power while making it clear that humanity would not tolerate their previous behavior. As the various species signed the document, Vexthal found himself standing next to a human diplomat, a woman named Claire Bennett. She was young by human standards with red hair and sharp green eyes. "Commander Vexthal," she said politely, "I wanted to thank you for attending. Your presence here sends an important message." "What message is that?" Vexthal asked. "That the Dominion is willing to coexist peacefully with other powers, that you recognize the galaxy is changing." "The galaxy is indeed changing," Vexthal agreed. "But change is not always permanent. Empires rise and fall. Today humanity is ascendant. Tomorrow, who knows?" Claire smiled. "Commander, we do not want to replace the Kryn as the dominant power. We do not want to conquer or control. We just want to make sure that smaller civilizations can live without fear." Noble sentiments, but power has a way of corrupting even the most noble intentions. Perhaps. But that is why we built in safeguards. The Galactic Defense Initiative is not ruled by humanity. It is governed by a council where each member has an equal vote. We are one voice among many. Vexthal studied her carefully. "You truly believe that? You truly believe humanity will not try to dominate this alliance?" "I do. Because unlike the Kryn, we remember what it was like to be afraid. Earth was almost destroyed multiple times in our history. Wars, plagues, environmental disasters. We came very close to extinction. That history taught us the value of cooperation, of protecting the weak, of standing against tyranny." "Pretty words," Vexthal said. "But I wonder if you will still speak them in 100 years when you have grown comfortable with your power." "Maybe you are right to be skeptical," Claire admitted. "But I prefer to be optimistic. And either way, Commander, the old order is gone. The galaxy will never again be ruled by fear and conquest. Too many species have seen that there is another way." Vexthal watched as the last signature was added to the agreement. Representatives from a dozen worlds, all of them celebrating their newfound security. All of them looking to humanity as their protector. "I hope you are right," he said quietly. "For all our sakes." On Earth, in a military command center deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Admiral Hayes met with his staff to discuss the future of the Earth Navy. "The Galactic Defense Initiative is official," he told them. "That means we now have formal obligations to defend 12 different species. We need to expand our fleet and our capabilities." "How many ships are we talking about, Admiral?" asked Captain Jenny Price, his chief of staff. "We currently have 15 capital ships, including the Valiant. I want that number doubled within 2 years. We also need more support vessels, frigates, destroyers, carriers, and we need to establish naval bases in strategic locations throughout the Alliance." "That is a massive expansion, sir," another officer, Commander Alex Turner, pointed out. "The budget alone will be astronomical." "The President has assured me that funding will not be an issue," Hayes replied. "The people of Earth have seen what is out there. They understand that we need a strong military to protect not just our colonies, but our allies as well." "What about training, sir?" Jenny asked. "We need crews for all these new ships. That means thousands of new recruits." "Recruitment is already up by 300%, Hayes said with a slight smile. "It seems everyone wants to join the Navy now. We will have plenty of volunteers. The challenge will be training them properly." He looked around the room at his officers. "Ladies and gentlemen, we stand at a turning point in human history. For the first time, we are not alone in the universe. For the first time, we have responsibilities that extend beyond Earth and our colonies. How we handle this moment will define humanity's role in the galaxy for generations to come." "What role do you want us to play, Admiral?" Alex asked. Hayes thought about the question carefully. "I want us to be guardians. Not conquerors, not rulers, but protectors." 6 weeks passed before Commander Vexthal stood in the Grand Chamber of the Kryn High Command. The journey home had been long and humiliating. His faster-than-light drives had been repaired using parts salvaged from the destroyed ships, a constant reminder of his defeat. The humans had kept their word and let him go, but that made the shame no easier to bear. The grand chamber was enormous, carved from black stone that absorbed light and sound. Dozens of Kryn commanders stood along the walls, their compound eyes fixed on Vexthal as he made his way to the center of the room. At the far end, on a raised platform, sat the 5 members of the High Command. They were ancient by Kryn standards, each having led the Dominion's forces for centuries. High Commander Zexthor was the eldest and most respected. His exoskeleton was scarred from 1,000 battles, and his eyes held the cold wisdom of someone who had conquered more worlds than most Kryn could name. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of absolute authority. "Commander Vexthal," Zexthor said, his mandibles clicking slowly. "You returned to us with 3 ships destroyed and 3 more barely functional. You were ordered to subjugate a minor human colony. Instead, you bring us reports of a defeat. Explain yourself." Vexthal bowed his head in submission. "High Commander, I take full responsibility for the failure, but I must report that our intelligence on the humans was incomplete. Severely incomplete. Incomplete how? The humans possess military technology far beyond what we anticipated. They have developed weapons and defensive systems that render our current arsenal obsolete. Their single battleship defeated our entire squadron in less than 10 minutes. A murmur ran through the assembled commanders. Zexthor held up one claw for silence. "One ship defeated 6 of our cruisers? This is impossible. No species in the galaxy has such capabilities. I witnessed it myself, High Commander. I have recorded all sensor data from the battle. The evidence is undeniable." Vexthal gestured, and a holographic display appeared above the chamber floor. The assembled Kryn watched in silence as the battle played out in miniature. They saw the human shields absorb their most powerful weapons without damage. They saw the devastating railguns tear through Kryn armor like it was nothing. They saw the fighter craft swarm over their ships with speed and precision that seemed impossible. When the recording ended, the chamber was silent. "How?" One of the other High Command members, a female named Cretia, finally asked. "How did they develop such technology? We have spies throughout the galaxy. We monitor all major civilizations. How did we miss this?" "I believe they developed it in isolation, High Commander," Vexthal replied. "The humans only began expanding into space 10 standard years ago. Before that, they were confined to their home system. During that time, while they were isolated, they perfected warfare in ways we never imagined." "What do you mean?" Zexthor demanded. Vexthal called up another display, this one showing information gathered from various sources. "The humans have been fighting each other for their entire history. Their world has seen thousands of wars. They have developed countless ways to kill, to defend, to strategize. War is not just something they do. It is something they have studied and refined for 10,000 years. He highlighted various pieces of information. They have fighting styles from hundreds of different cultures. They have weapons ranging from primitive clubs to weapons that can destroy planets. They have military academies where they study nothing but warfare. Every major conflict in their history has been analyzed, documented, and learned from. So they are warriors, Cretia said. So are we. We have conquered this galaxy through military might. With respect, High Commander, no. We are conquerors. They are warriors. There is a difference. Vexthal paused, choosing his words carefully. We fight species that have never truly fought before. Most civilizations we encounter are peaceful. They build weapons only when threatened, and by then it is too late. They have no military tradition, no warrior culture, no deep understanding of warfare. And the humans do. Yes, they have fought wars where millions died. Wars that lasted for years. Wars using every kind of weapon imaginable. They have generals who study nothing but strategy. Soldiers who train their entire lives for combat. And they have used this experience to build a military force designed from the ground up, to fight and win against any threat. Zexthor was quiet for a long moment. Your assessment, Commander. Can we defeat them? Vexthal felt every eye in the chamber turned toward him. High Commander, based on what I witnessed, I do not believe we can. Not with our current forces. Not with our current technology. The ship I encountered was not a fluke. It was not some prototype or experimental design. It was one of many. The human admiral told me they have more. Many more. How many? He did not say. But our intelligence has since confirmed at least 12 similar vessels with more under construction. And those are just their largest ships. They have hundreds of smaller vessels, cruisers, destroyers, frigates, all using the same advanced technology. Another High Command member, a warrior named Vexthor, spoke up. Then we build a larger fleet. We attack with overwhelming numbers. No defensive shield can withstand sustained fire from 100 ships. Perhaps, Vexthal admitted. But there is another factor. The humans do not fight like we do. We rely on overwhelming force and intimidation. We show up, demonstrate our power, and demand surrender. The humans are more subtle, more strategic. He called up images from the battle. They disabled rather than destroyed when they could. They took prisoners. They let me go specifically so I could bring this message back. They wanted the Dominion to know what they are capable of. They wanted us to understand that any attack on them would be met with devastating force. They fear us then, Vexthor said. They try to scare us away because they know they cannot win a prolonged war. No, Vexthal said firmly. If they feared us, they would have destroyed us completely and tried to hide what happened. Instead, they sent us home with evidence of their capabilities. They are confident. They believe they can defeat any force we send against them, and based on what I saw, they are probably right. The chamber erupted in angry clicking and hissing. Many of the commanders refused to believe that the mighty Dominion could be challenged, let alone defeated by a species they had barely heard of. Vexthor raised his claw again, demanding silence. What do the humans want? What are their terms? They have no terms, High Commander. They do not want to conquer us. They do not want our territory. They want only to be left alone, and they want us to leave their allies alone. Allies? What allies? Several species have already approached the humans for protection. The Dalari, the Yixtai, the Morgesh, small civilizations that have lived in fear of the Dominion. They see the humans as protectors, and the humans have agreed to defend them. Kresia leaned forward. So the humans would go to war to protect species that mean nothing to them? Why? Because, Vexthal said quietly, they believe it is right. Their admiral was very clear. They do not conquer, they defend. But when defending, they are absolutely ruthless. Vexthor sat back in his throne, his multiple eyes unfocused as he considered the information. Around the chamber, commanders argued among themselves. Some wanted immediate war. Some urged caution. Some refused to believe that the Great Dominion could be threatened by these upstart humans. Finally, Vexthor spoke. I will not lead the Dominion into a war we cannot win. We have ruled this galaxy for 3,000 years because we are pragmatic. We attack when victory is certain. We retreat when it is not. High Commander, surely you are not suggesting we surrender to these humans, Vexthor protested. I am suggesting we adapt, Vexthor replied. For 3 millennia, we have been the dominant military force in this region. But the galaxy is large. Perhaps it is time we acknowledge that there are powers beyond our ability to control. He stood, his ancient body still powerful despite his age. I am issuing the following orders. All Dominion forces are to avoid human space. Any species that is allied with humanity is off limits. We do not attack them. We do not threaten them. We do not engage with them unless they engage with us first. This is cowardice, Vexthor hissed. This is survival, Vexthor shot back. I have led this Dominion for 2 centuries. I have conquered more worlds than you have visited. And I know when we face an enemy we cannot defeat. The humans are that enemy. At least for now. He looked around the chamber. Send diplomatic envoys to the humans. Establish formal relations. Learn what they want. Learn what they fear. Learn their weaknesses. And in the meantime, our scientists will study their technology. Our strategists will study their tactics. If there is a way to defeat them, we will find it. But we will not throw away Dominion lives in a war we are not prepared to fight. Vexthal bowed deeply. Wise words, High Commander. Commander Vexthal, you will lead our diplomatic mission to the humans. You have met them. You understand them better than any other Kryn. Make them understand that we seek peace. It will be done, High Commander. As the assembly dismissed, Vexthal made his way out of the Grand Chamber. Other commanders avoided him, seeing his defeat as a mark of shame. But Vexthal did not care about their opinions. He had looked into the face of humanity's military power. Commander Vexthal watched the human battleship on his displays with a mixture of contempt and calculation. It was large, certainly. Perhaps the humans thought size alone would intimidate him. They were fools. The Kryn had destroyed vessels twice that size before. All ships, attack formation Delta 7, he ordered. Target the human vessel. Full weapons power. We will cut through their hull and show them what happens when lesser species challenge the Dominion. The 6 Kryn warships moved smoothly into position, a formation they had perfected over centuries of warfare. 3 ships would attack from above and below, while the other 3 flanked from the sides. It created overlapping fields of fire that no enemy had ever survived. On the Crimson Talon's bridge, weapons officers charged the massive lance beams that served as the Dominion's primary ship-to-ship weapons. These beams could slice through the heaviest armor like a torch through ice. They had cracked planets. They had vaporized entire fleets. All weapons ready? Commander, the tactical officer reported. Fire. 6 beams of concentrated energy, each one bright enough to blind unprotected eyes, lanced through space toward the Valiant. They struck the human battleship dead center, all 6 hitting within milliseconds of each other. The impact should have split the human ship in half. Instead, something rippled around the Valiant's hull, a shimmer of energy that absorbed the devastating attack like water absorbing rain. When the beams cut off, the human ship hung in space, completely undamaged. Vexthal stared at the displays in disbelief. What happened? Why did our weapons have no effect? Unknown, Commander, his tactical officer said, his voice shaking. The energy was absorbed by some kind of defensive field. Our sensors cannot penetrate it to analyze the technology. Fire again. Maximum power. All ships. The 6 warships fired once more. Again, the energy beam struck the human vessel. Again, they had no effect. The mysterious shield absorbed everything the Kryn could throw at it. On the bridge of the Valiant, Admiral Hayes watched the enemy attack with calm professionalism. Around him, dozens of officers worked at their stations, their movements practiced and efficient. Their primary weapons appeared to be directed energy beams, reported Lieutenant Pete Harrison from the weapons station. Our shields are holding at 97% capacity. No damage to the hull. Good, Admiral Hayes said. Let them waste their ammunition. Lieutenant Harrison, target their engines. I want them disabled, not destroyed. We will send survivors back to their leaders with a message. Yes, sir. Acquiring targets now. The Admiral pressed a button on his command chair. All hands, this is the Admiral. We are about to engage hostile forces. These are the first aliens humanity will fight in open combat. Make this lesson count. Show them what Earth Navy training means. Show them what human engineering can do. And remember, we are not here to conquer. We are here to defend. Fire when ready. The Valiant moved. For a ship of its enormous size, it accelerated with shocking speed. Within seconds, it was cutting through the Kryn formation like a shark through a school of fish. The Kryn ships tried to track it, tried to bring their weapons to bear, but the human vessel was faster than anything they had ever encountered. Railgun batteries 1 through 4. Fire, Lieutenant Harrison said calmly. Along the Valiant's flanks, massive magnetic accelerators launched solid metal projectiles at velocities that approached the speed of light. Each projectile was a cylinder of dense alloy, 5 feet long and guided by its own targeting computer. The first volley struck a Kryn cruiser on its port side. The rounds punched through the armor like it was tissue paper, tearing through internal compartments and critical systems. Secondary explosions rippled along the ship's hull as ammunition stores and fuel tanks ignited. Within seconds, the entire vessel exploded in a ball of fire that briefly lit up the darkness of space. 1 enemy vessel destroyed, Harrison reported, adjusting targeting for remaining ships. Vexthal watched in horror as one of his cruisers simply ceased to exist. Evasive maneuvers. All ships scatter formation. Do not let them get close. But it was too late. The human ship was already among them, and its weapons were far more devastating than anything the Kryn had imagined possible. The Valiant's main guns fired. These were not the railguns, but something far more powerful. Beams of pure energy, refined and focused to a degree the Kryn had never achieved, struck another warship. The beam did not just damage the ship. It vaporized a 100-meter section of the hull, cutting the vessel in 2. Both halves tumbled through space, atmosphere and debris spilling from the wounds. 2 down, Hayes said. Launch fighters. I want those remaining ships pinned down. Along the Valiant's flanks, launch bays opened. Small craft, each one about the size of a shuttle bus, poured out in organized waves. They were sleek and fast, covered in weapons and guided by some of the best pilots Earth had trained. The fighter pilots had been waiting for this moment. For years they had trained for space combat against hostile aliens. Now finally they had their chance to show what they could do. Gold Squadron, engage the cruiser on the right, the squadron leader called over the radio. Silver Squadron, take the one on the left. Hit their weapon emplacements first, then their engines. The fighters swarmed over the Kryn ships like angry wasps. Their smaller weapons could not punch through the heavy armor that protected the cruisers' main hulls, but they did not need to. They targeted sensors, communication arrays, weapon turrets, and engine exhausts. Anywhere that was vulnerable, anywhere that was exposed. The human fighters struck with precision and skill. One Kryn cruiser tried to bring its point defense weapons to bear on the fighters, but the small craft were too fast, too maneuverable. They dodged and weaved through the defensive fire, their own weapons never stopping. "Commander, we have multiple small craft attacking our ships," Vexthal's tactical officer reported, his voice near panic now. "Our point defense cannot track them. They are destroying our weapons systems. All ships retreat," Vexthal ordered. "Full power to faster-than-light drives. We must escape." But the human admiral had anticipated this. The Valiant moved to block their escape vector, its massive bulk preventing the Kryn ships from accelerating to the speeds needed for faster-than-light travel. Any ship that tried to go around it would expose its vulnerable engines to the human fighters. The Kryn were trapped. "Disable their engines," Admiral Hayes ordered. "I want them dead in space but alive." The Valiant's weapons fired with surgical precision. Railgun rounds tore into the engine sections of the remaining 3 Kryn warships. Explosions bloomed across their sterns as faster-than-light drives and sublight engines were reduced to scrap metal. Within minutes, it was over. 3 Kryn ships destroyed completely, 3 more disabled and drifting, their crews alive but helpless. The entire battle had lasted less than 10 minutes. Admiral Hayes opened a channel to the Crimson Talon. On his screen, Commander Vexthal appeared. The alien commander looked different now. His posture was no longer arrogant. His multiple eyes showed something that might have been fear or shock. "Your ships are disabled," Hayes said, his voice firm but not cruel. "We could destroy you completely, but we will not. You will be allowed to repair your faster-than-light drives. You will be allowed to return to your territory, but you will carry a message to your leaders." Vexthal said nothing, simply staring at the human admiral. "Humanity is not interested in conquest," Hayes continued. "We do not want to rule over other species. We came to the stars to explore, to learn, to build new homes, but we will defend ourselves and anyone who asks for our protection. We will defend them with overwhelming force." The admiral leaned forward slightly. "Tell your high command this. Tell them that the age of the Kryn Dominion is over. Tell them that if they threaten humanity or our allies again, we will not be merciful next time. We will not disable your ships. We will destroy them. We will destroy your fleets. We will destroy your ability to make war. Do you understand?" Vexthal's mandibles clicked slowly. "I understand." "Good. Repair your ships and go home, Commander. And be grateful that humanity believes in giving second chances." The transmission ended. On the New Horizon, Captain Jake Morrison stood with his crew watching the battle's aftermath on their sensors. None of them spoke for a long moment. They had just witnessed something that would change the galaxy forever. "Lisa," Jake finally said, "start recording everything. Every sensor reading, every communication, every detail. History was just made here." Lisa nodded, her hands moving over her console. "Captain, what just happened? How did one ship defeat 6 Kryn warships so easily?" Jake looked at the image of the Valiant on his screen. The massive battleship hung in space, its hull unmarked despite the battle it had just fought. Around it, human fighters flew in perfect formation like a school of fish protecting a whale. "I think," Jake said slowly, "we just learned that Earth has not been idle these last 10 years. While we were building colonies, someone else was building a navy. A real navy. One designed to fight and win against any threat." Dan Cooper nodded. "Those Kryn called themselves the Masters of War, but they never fought anyone who actually knew how to fight back." "And now they have," Jake agreed. "The question is, what happens next? Will the Kryn accept this, or will they come back with even more?" The colony of New Haven orbited a yellow star very much like Earth's sun. The planet below was beautiful, with vast oceans and 2 major continents covered in forests and grasslands. 50,000 humans called this world home, living in domed cities while terraforming slowly made the atmosphere breathable. Captain Jake Morrison stood in the control center of the New Horizon, the largest ship in the colony fleet. It was not a warship. It had been designed to carry colonists and supplies with only basic defensive weapons meant for clearing dangerous asteroids or defending against pirates. Jake was not a military officer. He had been a transport captain for 15 years before volunteering to lead the New Haven colony mission. He was reviewing supply reports when everything changed. "Captain, I have multiple contacts on sensors," called out the sensor operator, a young woman named Lisa Matthews. Her voice was calm, but Jake heard the tension underneath. "They just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. 6 ships, large ones. They are not responding to standard identification signals." Jake set down his tablet and moved to stand behind Lisa's station. "How large?" "Each one is at least 3 times our mass. They are arranged in what looks like an attack formation. Captain, I think these are warships." The control center went quiet. Everyone knew what this might mean. Humanity had met several alien species in the 10 years since they had begun exploring beyond Earth's solar system. Most had been friendly or at least neutral. But there were rumors, stories about a species that conquered other worlds, the Kryn Dominion. "Battle stations," Jake ordered, his voice steady despite the fear growing in his chest. "Get the other colony ships behind the orbital platforms. Evacuate non-essential personnel to the planet's surface, and get me a visual on those ships." The main screen flickered and showed the 6 vessels. They were angular and threatening, painted a deep red that seemed to swallow light. Weapon ports covered their hulls like the scales of some mechanical serpent. These were ships built for one purpose: war. "They are hailing us, Captain," Lisa said. "Put it on screen." The image that appeared made several people in the control center gasp. The alien was huge, towering even though he was sitting in what appeared to be a command chair. His body was covered in a hard shell that gleamed under harsh lighting. 4 arms, each tipped with claws that could easily tear through metal. His head was insectoid, with multiple eyes that seemed to look in different directions at once. When he spoke, his mandibles clicked and clacked. A computer voice translated his words into flat, emotionless English. "I am Commander Vexthal of the Kryn Dominion. You are in violation of space claimed by the Dominion. Your presence here is illegal. You will surrender immediately. You will turn over all military assets. You will accept Dominion governance. You have 1 planetary rotation to comply. If you refuse, your colony will be destroyed. Every human in this system will be killed. This is your only warning." The transmission ended. The control center erupted in panicked voices. Jake held up his hand for silence. "Everyone, calm down." "Lisa, did we record that transmission?" "Yes, Captain." "Good. Send it on maximum encryption to Earth Command. Priority Alpha. Tell them we need help and we need it fast." He turned to his first officer, a former Navy pilot named Dan Cooper. "Dan, what do we have that could hurt those ships?" Dan shook his head. "Nothing that would do more than scratch their paint. Our defensive lasers are designed for asteroids, not military-grade armor. We have no missiles, no railguns, nothing meant for ship-to-ship combat, so we cannot fight them." "No, sir. We cannot," Jake nodded slowly. He had expected that answer, but hearing it confirmed made his stomach turn. "Then we buy time. Open a channel to that Kryn commander." Lisa looked surprised. "What are you going to tell him?" "Whatever I need to in order to keep him talking. Earth Command needs time to respond. We give them that time." The channel opened. Vexthal appeared on screen again, his expression unreadable to human eyes. "Commander Vexthal," Jake said, keeping his voice respectful but firm. "We have received your message. However, we were not aware this space was claimed by your Dominion. We have no records of any territorial markers or warnings. Surely this is a misunderstanding that can be resolved through diplomatic channels." Vexthal's mandibles clicked. "There is no misunderstanding. You are here. This is Dominion space. You will submit or be destroyed. We would like to discuss terms," Jake continued. "We are a peaceful species. We do not want conflict, but we need time to communicate with our government and receive proper authorization to negotiate. Could you grant us additional time?" The alien stared at him for a long moment. "You have 1 rotation. Use it to prepare your surrender. There will be no negotiations. There are never negotiations." The transmission ended again. Dan moved closer to Jake. "Do you think it will work? Buying time?" "I do not know," Jake admitted. "But it is all we can do. How long until Earth Command receives our message?" "Given the distance, about 18 hours for the message to arrive. Then however long it takes them to send help." Jake did the math in his head. If they were lucky, very lucky, help might arrive before the deadline expired. If they were not lucky, He would have to decide whether to surrender or watch the Kryn destroy everything he and his people had built. The next 20 hours were the longest of Jake's life. He sent multiple transmissions to Vexthal, each one asking for clarification on different points, requesting more time, suggesting various compromises. The Kryn commander responded to most of them, his answers always the same. Submit or die, but he kept talking, and that was what mattered. As long as they were talking, the Kryn were not shooting. On the planet below, families huddled together in their homes. Some prayed. Some packed their belongings, though there was nowhere to run. Others simply waited, trying to stay calm for their children who did not understand why everyone was so scared. In the control center, Lisa suddenly sat up straight. "Captain, I have a new contact. Single ship, just emerged from faster-than-light travel." Jake felt his heart race. "Is it one of ours?" "I think so, sir. The signature is different from the Kryn ships. It is much larger. Wait, I am getting an identification signal. It is broadcasting Earth Navy codes. How large?" Jake asked. Lisa checked her readings twice before answering. "Captain, the mass reading says this ship is over 4 times the size of the largest Kryn vessel. I have never seen a ship that big." On the main screen, the new arrival came into view. It was massive, its hull painted dark gray with white markings. The design was clearly human, but it was like nothing Jake had ever seen before. It bristled with weapon systems. Armor plating covered every surface. It moved through space with purpose and power. "They are hailing us, Captain," Lisa said, her voice filled with hope. "Put it through." An older man appeared on screen. He wore a crisp Navy uniform with 5 stars on his collar. His face was weathered and serious, the face of someone who had seen many battles. His eyes were hard, but not unkind. "Captain Morrison, I am Admiral Frank Hayes of the United Earth Navy, commanding officer of the Battleship Valiant. We received your distress call. You can stand down. We will handle the situation from here." Jake felt relief wash over him like a wave. "Admiral, the Kryn have given us an ultimatum. They are demanding complete surrender." Admiral Hayes nodded. "I am aware. We intercepted their transmissions. The Kryn Dominion has been conquering other species for thousands of years. They believe they are invincible." He smiled, and it was not a pleasant smile. "They are about to learn otherwise. Sir, they have 6 warships. Each one is heavily armed." "I know, Captain. Do not worry. We did not come here to lose." The Admiral's expression hardened. "Open a channel to the Kryn commander. It is time we introduced ourselves properly." The screen split, showing both Admiral Hayes and Commander Vexthal. The Kryn commander looked at the human admiral with what might have been curiosity. "I am Admiral Frank Hayes of the United Earth Navy. You have threatened Earth citizens. This is unacceptable. You will withdraw your ships immediately and leave this system. If you do not, you will be destroyed." Vexthal's mandibles clicked in what the translator rendered as laughter. "You are 1 ship. We are 6. We are the masters of war. We have conquered thousands of worlds. What makes you think you can threaten us?" Admiral Hayes leaned forward slightly. "You were the masters of war. Past tense. You have been fighting species that never learned how to fight properly. Humanity has been perfecting warfare for 10,000 years. We have had hundreds of wars. We have developed weapons you cannot imagine, and we are very, very good at using them." "Brave words," Vexthal replied. "Let us see if you can back them up." "You have 30 seconds to begin withdrawing," the Admiral said calmly. "After that, we will consider you hostile combatants and we will respond with appropriate force." Vexthal cut the transmission. On the sensor display, the 6 Kryn ships began moving into an attack formation. Admiral Hayes turned back to face Jake. "Captain Morrison, take your ship and the other civilian vessels to minimum safe distance. This is about to get interesting." The stars were cold and silent as the massive warship cut through the darkness of space. Its hull was painted deep crimson, a color that had become feared across 100 star systems. The ship was enormous, stretching nearly 2 miles from bow to stern, covered in weapon ports that could reduce a planet to ash. Commander Vexthal stood at the center of the bridge, his 4 arms crossed over his armored chest. He was tall, even for his species, standing over 8 feet high. His exoskeleton gleamed under the harsh white lights of the command center. 2 of his compound eyes watched the main screen, while the others scanned the dozens of smaller displays around him. On the screen, a blue and green planet slowly rotated. It looked peaceful, beautiful even, But Vexthal felt nothing when he looked at it. He had seen too many worlds like this one. All of them had eventually bent to the will of the Kryn Dominion. Status report. He clicked, his mandibles moving in the complex speech of his people. The translator built into the bridge systems rendered his words into the common galactic language. The planet's defense fleet has withdrawn to the far side of their moon, his tactical officer reported. They are not approaching. Their government has sent 17 requests for negotiation. Vexthal made a sound that his species used for amusement. Negotiations. They always want to negotiate, as if there is anything to discuss. His second-in-command, a younger warrior named Kresheval, stepped closer. Should we begin the bombardment, Commander? Not yet. Let them send their diplomats first. Let them beg. It makes the eventual surrender more satisfying. This was how the Kryn had conquered most of the known galaxy. They arrived with overwhelming force. They made their demands simple and clear. Submit or die. Most species chose submission. The few that chose to fight were destroyed so completely that their names were forgotten within a generation. For 3,000 years, this pattern had repeated itself across the stars. The Kryn called themselves the Masters of War, and no one had ever successfully challenged that claim. The bridge doors opened, and a diplomat from the planet below was escorted in by 2 Kryn guards. The alien was small, barely 4 feet tall, with pale blue skin and large, frightened eyes. It wore elaborate robes that marked it as someone important in its society. Great Commander, the alien said in halting galactic common, my people wish to discuss terms. We are a peaceful civilization. We have never attacked anyone. Surely there is some arrangement we can reach. Vexthal looked down at the small creature. Your people will surrender all military assets. Your government will dissolve. Your world will be administered by the Dominion. Your resources will be allocated as we see fit. Your people will work for the glory of the Kryn. These are the terms. There are no others. The diplomat's skin color shifted to a darker blue, a sign of distress in its species. But that is slavery. Our people will not accept this. Then your people will die, Vexthal said simply. You have 1 planetary rotation to deliver your answer. If you do not surrender, we will demonstrate our power. We will destroy your largest city. Then you will have another rotation to reconsider. If you still refuse, we will destroy another city. This will continue until you surrender, or until there is nothing left of your civilization. The choice is yours. The diplomat stared at him in horror, then was escorted off the bridge. Vexthal turned back to the main screen, already knowing what the answer would be. It was always the same. They would argue among themselves. Some would want to fight. Some would want to surrender immediately. Eventually, the ones who wanted to live would win, and another world would fall under Dominion control. Commander, his communications officer called out. We are receiving reports from the outer colonies. There are some developments you should be aware of. Vexthal turned 1 pair of eyes toward the officer. What kind of developments? A new species has been detected. They call themselves humans. They have established colonies on 3 worlds in the outer rim. The worlds are far from our primary territory, mostly worthless in terms of resources. Are they a threat? The communications officer hesitated. Unknown, Commander. We have limited information. They appeared suddenly, about 10 standard years ago. Their technology appears to be adequate for space travel and colonization, but we have no data on their military capabilities. Have they made contact with any other species? Yes, Commander. They have established trade relationships with several minor civilizations. The reports suggest they are curious and friendly. They do not seem aggressive. Vexthal considered this. A new species was always interesting but rarely important in the grand scheme of things. The galaxy was full of species. Most of them were weak. The strong ones, like the Kryn, ruled. The weak ones served or died. Monitor them, he ordered. If they enter our territory or interfere with our operations, we will deal with them. Otherwise, they are not our concern. Yes, Commander. The bridge returned to its normal routine. Officers monitored their stations. The fleet maintained its position around the planet. Below, on the surface, billions of people tried to decide if they would rather live as slaves or die as free beings. Vexthal had seen this scenario play out hundreds of times. The outcome was never in doubt. 3 rotations later, the planet surrendered. Their fleet was confiscated. Their government was dissolved. Kryn administrators took control of every major city. The planet's resources would now feed the Dominion's war machine. As the Crimson Talon prepared to leave orbit, Vexthal reviewed reports from across Dominion space. The Empire was vast, stretching across thousands of star systems. Dozens of species lived under Kryn rule. Some had been subjects for so long they had forgotten they were ever free. One report caught his attention. It was about the humans again. They had established a fourth colony, this one slightly closer to Dominion space. The report included some intercepted communications. Vexthal read them with mild interest. What struck him was the tone. When most species talked among themselves, there was always an undercurrent of fear when they discussed the Kryn. They spoke in whispers about the Masters of War. They warned each other to stay away from Dominion territory. They told stories of conquered worlds and destroyed civilizations. The humans were different. Their communications showed no fear of the Kryn. In fact, they barely mentioned the Dominion at all. They were focused on building their colonies, on exploring new systems, on understanding the galaxy around them. One intercepted message made Vexthal pause. A human colony administrator was discussing potential threats. The administrator mentioned the Kryn Dominion but dismissed them as just another regional power we'll probably meet eventually. Just another regional power. The Kryn were not a regional power. They were the dominant military force in the galaxy. They were the conquerors of worlds. They were the masters of war. Vexthal felt something unusual. After decades of easy victories, after watching species after species bow before Kryn might, he felt a small spark of anticipation. Perhaps these humans would be different. Perhaps they would be foolish enough to resist. Perhaps they would provide an actual challenge. He dismissed the thought. No species had successfully resisted the Dominion in 3,000 years. These humans would be no different. When the time came, they would submit or be destroyed just like all the others. The Crimson Talon jumped to faster-than-light travel, leaving the conquered world behind. Somewhere in the distance, on a colony world the Kryn considered beneath their notice, humans were building something. They were preparing something, but Vexthal did not know this. None of the Kryn knew. They were so confident in their superiority, so certain of their dominance that they could not imagine a species that might be their equal. That ignorance would cost them dearly.